We've already studied what the book of Proverbs teaches about our relationships with family and friends, but there are many people we interact with on a regular basis that are outside of these relationships. So let us consider the words of wisdom about our dealings with our neighbors. First, we acknowledge the fact that the Scriptures tell us that we are to do good to others. Solomon says, "Do not withhold good from those to whom it is due, when it is in your power to do it. Do not say to your neighbor, 'Go and come back, and tomorrow I will give it,' when you have it with you now." Proverbs 3, verses 27 through 28. There may be circumstances in which we are simply unable to do good to others. Paul told the Corinthians that God judges one's performance of good works toward others according to what a person has, not according to what he does not have, 2 Corinthians 8 and verse 12. But while there are legitimate reasons why a person may not be able to help his neighbor, there are other reasons that are merely excuses. One will always be able to find an excuse for refusing to do good. But when we have the ability and the opportunity to help others, this is what we ought to do. Solomon says, "Do not devise harm against your neighbor while he lives securely beside you." Proverbs 3 and verse 29. Solomon here is describing a condition in which one's neighbor has come to place their trust in him and feels safe and secure living by him. In this circumstance, one must not take advantage of his neighbor's trust. We should not be looking for opportunities when others let their guard down around us, allowing us to somehow harm or take advantage of them. We should seek to do good at all times so that we gain our neighbor's trust and never violate that trust. Solomon also states that the righteous is a guide to his neighbor, but the way of the wicked leads them astray. Proverbs 12 and verse 26. The King James Version says, "The righteous is more excellent than his neighbor." Being more excellent, acting with righteousness and with wisdom, allows one to be a guide to others. He sets a standard by his righteousness, showing his neighbor, both by words and actions, the path that he ought to take. But Solomon also says that a man who flatters his neighbor is spreading a net for his steps. Proverbs 29 and verse 5. Flattery is different than a compliment. A compliment is praise that one deserves for his actions, his character, or whatever reason he may be receiving the compliment. But flattery is praise that is undeserved and is given with an ulterior motive. That motive is to receive some undeserved favor from the one being praised. But one who accepts flattery will often be susceptible to being taken advantage of by the one who flatters him. Solomon then states that deliver those who are being taken away to death and those who are staggering to slaughter. Oh, hold them back. Proverbs 24 and verse 11. It's easy to make a spiritual application from this verse that we should try to save our neighbors from sin and help them to avoid ultimate judgment. And this is certainly something that we should do, but this verse must not be limited to this application. Doing good to one's neighbor includes helping him in time of trouble. Even in the threat of death and slaughter, our role is to defend, to protect, and to save our neighbor. For Solomon says that we should not rejoice when our neighbor falls, and that we should not let our heart be glad when he stumbles, or the Lord will see it and will be displeased with us and turn his anger away from him. Proverbs 24, verses 17 and 18. We are not to find joy in the suffering of others, even when one is suffering on account of his own sin. Friends, we are not to rejoice over this. The consequences and punishment for sin are what Solomon refers to in this passage as he says that our rejoicing may cause God's anger to turn away from him. More than this, our rejoicing will cause God's anger that was directed at our neighbor to now be directed toward us. And this is implied in this passage, but stated explicitly elsewhere. He who rejoices at calamity will not go unpunished. Solomon says, "Do not say, 'Thus I shall do to him as he has done to me. I will render to the man according to his works.'" Proverbs 24 and verse 29. This passage is the opposite of the well-known golden rule given by Jesus. In everything, therefore, treat people the same way you want them to treat you. For this is the law and the prophets, Matthew 7 and verse 12. Yes, man often has a tendency to retaliate for what someone else has done to him, yet the one who walks in wisdom will reject this carnal inclination and will do good to others, regardless of how he is treated by them. Friends, we thank you for joining us for our program today. We hope that you will consider these things that we have discussed and have a blessed day.